What's up, guys? Welcome to Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Hopefully everybody's having an awesome Sunday, July the 20th here. Just wanted to put out a quick video and kind of talk a little Elgton Jenkins as we are quickly approaching camp. So that's what we're going to be hitting on today, talking about the actual contract demand that we have kind of ciphered through the information and come to more or less an answer of, okay, here's what the contract dispute's actually about. We'll talk about how I feel like Elton's kind of met him in the middle. Hopefully the Packers won't just completely give him the cold shoulder. And when he does return, because I think he will play for the Green Bay Packers this year, there won't be any animosity towards the organization. That's one thing that's got me worried as a Packer fan. However, before we dive into it, I need y'all to do that YouTube stuff for us. Hit like, hit subscribe. If you're new here, welcome into PTA. We're not experts. We're not insiders. What we are fans just like you. We're here to talk about the Packers. We do it 365 days a year, go live daily. Some cases, like today, we'll be going live again later on this evening. So make sure you're subscribed. Hit that bell notification so you make sure you get notified every time that we do go live, whether it's a pregame show, postgame show, film breakdown, which tonight, really excited about the Tucker Kraft breakdown that we're going to be doing. I think you guys will enjoy it. We'll cover all of his touchdowns from the 2024 season and kind of break down some of the X's and O's. So let's just get into it here real quick. Elgton Jenkins' actual contract demand. Will the Packers cave? All right, Elgton Jenkins, the Packers Pro Bowl left guard turned starting center for the Green Bay Packers, has now been placed on the non-football injury list and will not participate in the first practice of training camp on Wednesday. Here are the latest details on what we know. Okay, so again, just combing through the internet, social media, and gathering information, having AI put it together in bullet point form. Here's some of the details that we have gathered here. Okay, so the NFL's official daily transaction wire provided no detail on Jenkins's injury or when it occurred, and it is possible the move is procedural given the offseason context. And I think that's what this is, guys. I don't think he's got an injury. I think it's just real simple. He and the Packers still haven't come to an agreement yet. So what they'll do is put him on that non-football injury list, let him kind of sit to the side. He'll probably still be in camp with, the new age, with the new CBA. It's a hold in now, right? That way they still get paid. It gets counted as participation, but they're not doing anything physical. Really what it comes down to, guys, this is the only way that these players can protest their contract, even though they've got a contract. Maybe they want some more guaranteed money. This is the way they can do it. If they hold out, they lose money. If they hold in, they're still getting paid. I know that sounds silly, but that's it in 2025 silly, right? Jenkins did not attend the team's voluntary phase 1-2 sessions or organized team activities or practices during the offseason, hoping for guaranteed money in his contract amid his position change. He reported to the mandatory 3-day minicamp, however, last month, but did not participate in on-field work, avoiding potential fines for not showing up. Okay, so what you've got is he missed pretty much everything in the offseason. I think he did miss out on the workout bonus, if I remember correctly, which I want to say it was $500,000. I could be wrong there. Maybe we'll get to it with the contract here in a second. But he did show up for the mandatory minicamp, okay? So keep that in mind. During minicamp, head coach Matt LaFleur stated Jenkins was helping coach other players and working on the side with no specific injury mentioned, saying, quote, "We thought it was best to keep him out today." So you can see here he was actually working with some of the players, as you see him here with Sean Ryan, and just kind of giving coaching tips. And this is where I tip my cap to Elgton Jenkins. And again, we'll get into the contract details in a minute and what I think it is they're looking, or what he's looking to accomplish with this hold in. But at least he showed up for the mandatory minicamp. And not only showed up, he could have sat over to the side like a sourpuss with his arms crossed and not talked to anybody. But you see he was in there coaching up players. To me, and this is what Brian Balaga talked about on Wildy and Tausch, several weeks ago, what you're doing is you're operating in good faith. You're letting the Packers know, look, man, I'm not sore over this. There's no hard feelings, but can I get another pull on some guaranteed money is essentially what it comes down to, right? So I just think it's important to mention everything in context that he did show up and help those players, okay? So General Manager Brian Gutekunst, when asked about progress on an agreement with Jenkins, said, quote, "We'll keep those things in-house. We really don't talk about contract stuff." Respect Goody for that. It'd be real easy for Goody to come out and him, have a little ill will and be like, hey, look, he's under contract. He better be here. Right? He didn't do that. That's why I think this is going to get resolved fairly soon. Hopefully I'm right there. Jenkins is not upset about switching positions. That was another thing is, hey, he doesn't want to switch positions to center, right? Well, Matt LaFleur said when they spoke about it going into the offseason, I think it was with the exit interviews, he seemed receptive to the idea of him playing center. So that doesn't seem to be an issue. Now, the money might be an issue, right? Because centers get paid less than guards now. It seems like that's been a shift here, maybe not recently, but some time ago. So he's not upset about switching positions or the team's 4-year, $77 million deal with ex-San Francisco 49ers left guard Aaron Banks, who will start in Jenkins' old spot there at left guard. He seeks financial assurances for his final 2 years of the contract, which has no remaining guaranteed money. Jenkins, set to turn 30 on December 26, has a base salary of $11.7 million this year and $18.5 million in 2026. He was selected to the Pro Bowl in 2020 and 2022. So you got a two-time Pro Bowl guard here. Now, when you look at the details of the contract, hopefully you guys can see this okay. I've got it zoomed in about as far as I can. What's notable here, if you look in the 2025 column, or row, I should say, $11.7 million in base salary. This is according to Spot Track. The sign-in proration, which that's money he's already gotten. It's just prorated over the duration of the contract, $4.8 million. Okay. Roster GM bonus of $600,000. Workout bonus of $500,000. So we were correct on that workout bonus at $500,000. Now, cap hit, $17.6 million this year. He's basically accounting for 6.3% of the Packers salary cap this year. $9.6 million in dead cap. What does that mean? If they were to move on from him right now, okay, they could free up the difference of 17.6 and 9.6, right? Which would be, what would that be? 8 million? Am I thinking right there? I think my math's correctly. So let's say it's just 8 million they could free up right now. Okay, so he's not concerned about being cut this year, right? What he's concerned about is this my last year in Green Bay? And if that's the case, let's put ourselves in Elgton Jenkins' shoes for just a second. Let's say Green Bay's plan, their diabolical plan, all right, and I say that with sarcasm, please understand that. Let's say their plan is, let's let him play center this year, give Jacob Monk another year to kind of get acclimated to the NFL, and then next year we move on. Or who knows, maybe Zach Tom could step in and be the center of the future. We really don't know right now, right? But let's say they let him play this year, and then they cut bait next year, okay? If they were to do that, one, him switching to center, guess what's going to happen when he hits the market? He's going to hit the market as a 31-year-old guard, right? He's going to hit the market as a 31-year-old center who make less money than guards now. Now, he can come back and his negotiating point could be, look, man, they moved me to center for 1 year. I played guard my entire career. That's where I want to be. That's the money I deserve. You can do that. How many GMs are going to listen to that, though, to a 31-year-old player who honestly – has played his best football some time ago? The last 2 years haven't been bad. He's not been a bad offensive lineman. But to me, you haven't seen him at his peak. That was like 3 years ago, and we'll get to the PFF grades in a second. So, again, he's looking at it like, okay, as soon as I turn 30, they use me up. They downgrade my value by putting me to center. And you guys know I think center is more important than guard. That's just me personally. I think I'm in the minority by saying that, but that's how I feel about it. So if they kick him to center, you lower the overall value of his next contract. You cut bait with him, and now he's 31 years old trying to hit the open market and convincing people, look, I'm going to play. I can still play guard, where the Packers may have seen him, or other teams are going to use it as a negotiating tool, right? And they're going to be like, no, you're a center. You're going to get paid less. So you can understand where he's coming from. Now, from Green Bay's perspective, you're saying, well, he's under contract till 2026, Clayton. Why would they cut bait? Look at the number here on the bottom. $24.8 million cap hit. Look at the dead cap, guys. $4.8 million. What that means is if they cut bait after this year, they're going to absorb a $4.8 million dead cap penalty, but they're going to free up another $20 million in cap space. That's why it makes sense for the Packers to not restructure this contract or not give any more guaranteed money. So what Elton's looking at is going, hey, look, I'm not asking for a new extension, although he would love to have one, I'm sure. He's simply saying, how about guaranteeing some of this money, this $18.5 million base salary for next year? How about guaranteeing, say, half of that? And I'm just kind of theoretically speaking. Guaranteeing half of that salary would all but ensure him, because it would raise the dead cap hit up, would ensure that he's going to be on the roster next year. And he's got another small bite at the apple, knowing that his next contract, guys, it's going to be slim pickings on the open market for Elgton Jenkins at 31 years old to go out there and try to get a significant new contract. So hopefully that makes sense. That's where both parties are kind of coming from, right? The Packers are looking at it like, hey, look, this is why we structure our contracts this way. That way on down the stretch, when we say when a player gets a 4-year deal, it's really a 3-year deal. When they get a 3-year deal, it's really a 2-year deal. You're actually seeing Goody. If you look at the Aaron Banks contract and you look at the Nate Hobbs contract, hell, even the Josh Jacobs contract from last year, to be honest with you, it's now going from a 4 to a 3 to more to a 4 to a 2. And what that means is you get the guaranteed money out of the way. And if it doesn't work out after 2 years, you can move on with minimal dead cap penalty. So that's kind of what we're seeing here. Now, if you're worried about the salary cap, as we've talked about, the Packers, I think next year going into 2026, they're 5th in salary cap space. And they're going to have players they're going to want to re-sign. We got to get Zach Tom under contract. We got to make a decision on Rasheed Walker. I think they'll personally move on from him. You got to make a decision on Quay Walker if you want to keep him. You got a decision coming up this next offseason, or actually could be this offseason. I think when he comes back and proves he's healthy, Christian Watson, are you going to re-sign him? You got all these players that are going to be up for a contract, and this is the way the Packers operate. When players get to the point that Elgton Jenkins is at right now, you're looking to move on from them 1 year sooner rather than 1 year later. Now, another thing they could do here to help themselves with cap space, if they want him on the roster next year at 31 years old, is you could convert a part of that $18.5 million base salary. Let's say you go to Elton and say, all right, man, we'll meet you in the middle. You want more guaranteed money? We'll do that. How about we guarantee you of that $18.5 million? How about we guarantee you $5 million of it? We'll cut you a check right now, signing bonus, right? And what they can do is take that $5 million and they could spread that out over the duration of the contract. It doesn't have to be allocated to 1 year or the other, or you could tack on voidable years and kick the can on down the road a little bit. Not a huge fan of that, but that's an option too. There's no reason to do that with the current salary cap positioning the Packers are in. Now, with that being said, Elton would look at that and go, let's say $5 million is enough for him. Heck yeah, let's do it. The Packers could say, okay, we'll guarantee $5 million of that $18.5 million base salary for you next year, but let's shave $3 million off the overall contract. Meaning, let's take that $18.5 million, right? Let's take it down to $15.5 million. We'll guarantee $15 million of it, and now they've just shaved $3 million off of the cap hit. That's what you call cash over cap. You're trading in exchange cash signing bonus, right, in return for cap space. That's essentially what you're doing. The voidable years, that's a whole nother level to it, right? That's more or less of teams that are in cap trouble right now. They can free up space, tack on 2 or 3 voidable years, and then spread that extra $5 million out over the span of those years, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where we're at when we're looking at the Elgton Jenkins situation. I think it's going to get done, and the reason being, Elgton Jenkins showed up for mandatory minicamp. He was out there helping coach up the players. LaFleur seen it. He's, all but said thanks, right? Was bragging on Elgton for doing that. I think Coach Steno, OC Steno, same thing, was bragging on Elgton for being there. Now you go to Brian Gutekunst's side. What's Brian Gutekunst doing? He's saying we don't talk about this stuff in public. So he's not raking him over the coals. There's no ill will there. Elgton showed up to the mandatory minicamp. If he was truly upset and wanted to be traded, he could have just said, I'm not showing up to anything. I would be willing to retire, right? So I don't think that's the case. I think they're going to get it worked out. Let's move along here, though. LaFleur expressed optimism after speaking with Jenkins during minicamp, saying, quote, since he's been back here, the communication's been great between him and I. I expect him to be ready to go when we come back. He's a guy that I really respect how he works. The product, obviously, that he's put out there from an individual standpoint has been pretty impressive. He's fought through some adversity. He's going to be a big part of this thing, right? Now, again, this is Brian Billick 101, right? Brian Billick, for those of you who don't know, worked under Bill Walsh for a long time. Then he ended up going on to be the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. And everybody kind of rolled their eyes like, this is more of a PR guy. He's a head coach. He went to Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens, right? So what he always says is when you talk to the media, you're talking to your team. You have to look at it that way. And now think about this. If Matt LaFleur is talking to the media, he's talking to his team. If he sees it the same way Billick does, and I think he does, this is what he just told the team. Hey, guys, since he's been back here, the communications have been great between him and I. We're lockstep. I expect him to be ready to go when he comes back. He's going to be with us in the trenches, right? We're ready to go. He's a guy that I really respect. Therefore, the team should respect him, is what he's saying essentially. The product, obviously, that he's put out there from an individual standpoint has been pretty impressive. So he's saying, hey, listen, this guy has more pelts on the wall than any other offensive lineman in our group, right? Also highlighting the adversity he's fought through. He's going to be a big part of this thing. He's letting the team know, hey, Elton's with us. We're good to go. And also, the reverse psychology, putting a little bit of pressure on Elgton too. You hear that as a player and you go, maybe I just need to get my butt into camp. Maybe I need to get out there and do what I do, right? So just another way of looking at it and take that into consideration. Jenkins, one of 8 players designated as not yet ready to practice due to injuries, including 5 on the active, physically unable to perform list. Wide receiver Christian Watson, who's recovering from the torn ACL. Linebacker Quay Walker with the ankle injury seen on a one-legged scooter at minicamp. And rookies edge rusher Colin Oliver, cornerback Micah Robinson, and offensive lineman John Williams. Now, some people seen that yesterday, Packer fans did, and they freaked the heck out, right? Well, look at what just happened to Detroit. They just lost one of their best remaining interior defensive linemen to an ACL. He's done for the year. Chicago Bears are I've seen them placing players on the physically unable to perform list. Guys, this is common practice. This time of year, in some cases, it's when you put them on the pup, you're opening up a couple extra spots. You could bring in some undrafted guys. If they're not quite ready to go, bring in some undrafted guys, some guys that are under the radar, get them into camp, get a quick look at them. No, those 2 failed their physical, get them out of here. Let's go ahead and activate those guys off pup or whatever the list may be there, NFI, whatever you want to call it. So just keep that in mind. I wouldn't freak out over that stuff just yet. We covered that pretty extensively. You can find a video below. You just click on the video talking about injuries. We did a pretty extensive breakdown of the rookies who were going to start camp on Wednesday on the physically unable to perform list, essentially. Undrafted rookie free agent running back Amar Johnson, international pathway player program kicker Alex Hill, who spent much of last season on the practice squad, will start camp on the non-football injury list with Jenkins. The roster includes only 2 players over 30, 33-year-old kicker Brandon McManus and 30-year-old long snapper Matt Orzik, highlighting the Packers' tendency to move on from older players under Goody. This is where I have an issue, because it's one thing if a player is, 33, 35 years old, right? But we can't keep marching the youngest team in the league out there and expect to get a different result. You can't keep doing that and expect to win a Super Bowl. It's so rare the youngest team in the league wins Super Bowl. I mean, we could probably count on one hand the times that that's happened. Maybe it may have just happened once or twice. I can't think of one right off the bat. And it depends on which metrics you use and which websites you look at to determine, because there's been conflicting reports on what the actual age of these teams were back then, depending on if you include the players that were signed later in the year, just the ones you broke camp with. We won't get into the weeds there with that. But the point is, you need a little bit more veteran presence on this team, in my opinion. That's why I like the McCole Hardman signing. Now, hindsight, looking back on it, and then you go and you draft 2 receivers as well. You cover the bases. You built the basement up a little bit for your receiving room in case the draft didn't fall the way you wanted it to. But also, McCole Hardman, guys, Super Bowl experience, caught the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, right? He's graded out pretty consistently in the upper 60s pretty much his entire career, whether it was with Kansas City or wherever he's played football at. So there's a veteran. Nate Hobbs, a little bit of veteran presence, but those guys 26, 27 years old. As we mentioned here, there's only 2 players over 30, and one of them is a long snapper, right? The other one is Brandon McManus, the kicker, which you got to love that, right? So don't be afraid to bring Elgton back on just because he's 30 years old. Now, you don't want to get crazy with the contract. I really don't have any interest in keeping him past 31. I don't think the team does either, unless he just shows he can play center for the next 3 to 5 years, because it's a little bit easier position to play physically than maybe guards. So when you look at how he's played over the last season, his PFF grades, you can see this wasn't the best version of Elgton Jenkins, although down the stretch, pretty solid. If we just go by week here, PFF grades, we'll go real quick. 78, 75, starting good, right? 52, 55, 56, 52, 59, 53, 56, 48. Guys, you're talking about a span between week 3 to week 11 where he didn't crack the 60 mark. That's not a good look. And again, I'm not saying PFF's everything. You guys know how I feel about this. But maybe that raised some flags like, hey, is he struggling to play guard now? Maybe we kick him to center and let him kind of anchor the offensive line from a from a mental standpoint, helping set the protections, right? Touching the ball every play, helping with double teams on the inside, as opposed to having to take on just a powerhouse 3-tech type thing. I think it's worth just looking into and mentioning there. Now, his play picked up starting in week 12, 87, then dropped all the way to a 31, right, the very next week. So that's his worst grade of the year. Then back up to a 72, 66, 69, 71, and 80. So when you look at his career PFF grades, coming into the league in 2019, he played 964 snaps, right? Starting then 69, then the following year 67. 2021, he jumps all the way to an 82, guys. That's elite. Like, yeah, hey, one of the best guards in the game right there, right? 2022, a 72, then back down to a 65 in 2023, and slightly up last year at a 61. And when you look at the sacks allowed, these are important numbers, right? When you look at the sacks allowed, let's just go over the last 3 years. In 2022, he allowed 3 sacks. In 2023, 0 sacks. And then last year, he allowed 1 sack. So that's really good numbers from a pass blocking standpoint, right? When you look at the hits and the hurries, last year he only allowed 2 hits, which was pretty far down from the 6 hits he allowed in 2023. When you look at the hurries in 2023, he gave up 17 hurries. In 2024, this past season, only 13. When you look at the penalties, though, this is where it gets a little bit ugly. So he was averaging pretty much his entire career. Penalties his rookie year, 8, okay? Then he got it down to 5, way down to 3, back up a touch to 4, then 4 again. But in 2024, 10 penalties he committed last year. So I think it's twofold. I think the Packers looked at it and they said, you know what? Elton's not playing as good as he used to. Let's kick him to center. That'll make it a little bit easier from a physical standpoint. Let's bring in Aaron Banks, a younger version of Elton. I'm not saying he was as good as Elton in his prime. We'll see how he gels with this Packers offensive line. I do think it was a good signing, though. You bring him in to play left guard, get the young buck in there to take those 3 techs on, right? The 3s and the 1s, and then kick Elton to center. That way he can just kind of help with double teams unless somebody's in a 34 jam front and he has to block the nose. So kind of feels like this move to center was a combination of things. And again, I just want to make my opinion clear here. I think from Elton's standpoint, I understand why he wants some more guaranteed money. He sees it writing on the wall. This thing's starting to come to an end a little bit, man. It's wild to think about, too. It seems like it was yesterday he was drafted. But when you crack 30, man, it's rare those guys last much longer than that. Now, the great ones do, don't get me wrong. And maybe Elton can get back to that 2021 form. That would be great. But we will see if he can get there for sure. So, again, I like the way Elton's handled this. He could have been aggressive about it and pouted and folded his arms and they're trying to cheat me out of money. He didn't do that. It's just like, hey, look, this is the only leverage he's got, gang. If you agree to move to center and then withhold services, try to get some more guaranteed money, what's the Packers' other option? It's to either go to Jacob Monk, Sean Ryan, or move Zach Tom from tackle to center, right? So he's got a little bit of leverage there, just like, hey, man, can I get some more guaranteed money? I think they'll work it out. And I'm eager to see how much more money is guaranteed once the deal gets done. And you guys know I'm speaking pretty confidently the deal is going to get done. I believe it will. I believe the deal will get done for sure. So there you go. That's just kind of a breakdown on the contract situation with Elgton Jenkins. I wanted to give you guys just a quick little update, my 2 cents on it, and just combing through the internet. Okay, is there any reports we missed? I know there were several people reporting on this. I seen Bill Huber reporting on it earlier in the offseason. Jason Wilde's had a lock on it as well. I know Paul Brettles talked about it, a friend of the show here. So make sure you go check out all of their writings and all that. I'm sure that the majority of this information got compiled from all the articles that were written this offseason. So I think we'll be fine. I think Elton will get into camp sooner rather than later. Might just take a few days. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses the first week. And listen, if there's anybody who can afford to miss a little bit of camp time, it's Elgton Jenkins, right? He's not going to be missing anything here. As long as he's in football shape, his mind is sharp enough. He knows this offense inside and out. There's no 2 ways about that. So, and here's the other thing too. If you want to look at things through a green and gold lens, lenses, positive standpoint, Jacob Monk's getting some extra reps. Sean Ryan will get some extra reps. And who knows, maybe we'll see Zach Tom at center a little bit too. But you're kind of seeing what those guys can handle while they figure this thing out with Elton. But I expect him to be back in training camp, at least watching. But obviously, he's gonna start on the list where he isn't actually participating in physical activity. So that's it, guys. Just want to give you guys an update on that contract situation and what I think it's the resolution is. All of that stuff, the answer to the issue here, I think we'll get it squared away and get ready for camp. But we're coming right down to it, boys. It's coming up this week. Really excited for all our camp coverage. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're new here. Make sure you like all that good stuff. Share it with a friend. And And yeah, just make sure you got notifications on. That way, when we go live, you're going to get more and more shows like this where we just randomly go live during the day. You'll get a notification, and maybe you can slide an ear pod in and listen to the show while you're at work or whatever. But y'all have a great day. We'll see you tonight, 6:30 p.m. Central Time for PTA Live. Big Tucker Kraft show tonight. We're going to break down the tape. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to show you guys why I personally think Tucker Kraft is a top 5 tight end in the league, and why we have no reason to believe he can't emerge into the top 3. And who knows, within the next 2 or 3 years, might end up being the best tight end in the league if everything goes as planned. So hit that like, hit subscribe. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you tonight. God bless.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.